Single haptic iris fixation technique. The authors have no financial disclosures. Of the total estimated 38 million blind people in the world, approximately 50% are blind because of cataract. In addition to the backlog, an additional 3.8 million become blind each year because of cataract, for the majority in some developing countries. A technique of cataract surgery that is not only safe and effective, but also economical and easy for the majority of ophthalmologists to master is the manual small incision cataract surgery. Also, Haripriya et al. Suggested that manual small incision cataract surgery may be a safer initial procedure to learn for inexperienced cataract surgeons in the developing world. But alas, just like every rose has its thorn, complications during cataract surgery are unforeseen and inevitable. It is reported that a high risk of complications occur among less experienced surgeons, fellows, residents, and visiting trainees. Reports suggest that major complication rate of cataract surgery ranges from 3 to 8%. In some places, be it a large posterior capsular rent without adequate capsular support, or a zonular dialysis where capsular tension ring or capsular tension segment cannot be placed, the anterior segment surgeon is isolated in handling the intraoperative complication. Attempting to place an intraocular lens can lead to decentered IOL, and in some, IOL drop, where a vitreoretinal backup is necessary for a secondary procedure. Although there is insufficient evidence to demonstrate the superiority of one lens type or fixation site, concept of iris suture fixation for posterior chamber intraocular lenses dates back to 1976, when Malcolm McCannell described a transcorneal retrievable suture technique to refix, resuture, or stabilize subluxated PCIOLs. In such cases, a McCannell polypropylene suture has also been described with the CISPR slipknot technique to successfully refixate the IOLs to the iris. Suture fixation of the haptic to the iris can also be performed as a primary procedure intraoperatively and hence provide good immediate post-operative visual acuity. It can also be done as a secondary procedure in cases of aphakia with compromised capsular support or traumatic decentered IOL or late in the bag IOL dislocations. This is a referred case of aphakia with irregular pupil post-manual small incision cataract surgery where temporal capsular support is inadequate. Anterior chamber is entered with keratome and extended to 6 mm. Iridocapsular adhesions are separated with spatula. Microforceps is used to gently pull the iris to reduce pupil size so that suture can be passed through mid-periphery of iris. In the ab externo technique, iris is lifted with spatula and a 10-oproline suture with long curved needle is passed through cornea, and then a full thickness iris bite of 2 to 2.5 mm is taken and externalized. A spatula from opposite side port retrieves the suture loop present under the iris towards the pupillary center, and then Coughlin hook or McPherson forceps is used to externalize the loop through the sclerocorneal tunnel. The externalized suture is looped thrice around the leading haptic of 3-piece to 6 mm optic of PMMA rigid IOL, of making sure the loop remains close to optic-haptic junction. The leading haptic is gently slid below the iris and simultaneously pulling the suture ends so that the suture remains taut around the haptic. The trailing haptic is placed in sulcus over the capsular remnants. Now both the suture material between the cornea and iris are retrieved through the same side port using Coughlin's hook. Suture ends are tied and trimmed. Pupilloplasty was also done. This is the 1-week post-operative picture. This is a case of immature cataract with pseudo-exfoliation. As the routine steps of MSICS were performed, after residual cortical removal, the presence of capsular support is assessed with Coughlon's hook. The capsule support was found to be inadequate inferiorly. Hence, iris fixation of single haptic was planned inferiorly as primary procedure. Once the loop is externalized, it is ensured that the suture is of adequate length. It is important that the suture has not missed the haptic. The proline suture is brought out with the Coughlons through a corneal paracentesis made midway between the entry points on iris. The sutures must not be very tight, else pupillary peaking will occur. In a case of traumatic decentered rigid IOL with back complex, such as this, the iris is constricted mechanically and the posterior capsular adhesions are released with an anterior vitrectomy probe. IOL is being repositioned and suture fixation is done with the needle passing beneath the haptic. Both the suture ends are lifted to look for IOL tilt, confirming the suture is below the haptic. Intraoperative OCT shows the passage of needle from cornea to iris and back. The entry points on iris are spaced at 1.5 to 2 mm at junction of medial 2/3 and lateral 1/3 of iris. The passage of the needle through the cornea and full thickness iris are clearly seen. OCT showed no tilt or decentration in IOL. A retrospective analysis of single haptic fixation technique in 35 eyes with no incidence of lens tilt, decentered IOL or hyphema. We have made new modifications in rigid IOL design to ensure safe haptic fixation by avoiding loop slippage by providing a small tag on the haptic. A local lens manufacturer helped us by providing a prototype sample lens which was tried out at our wet lab to verify the suture integrity with the lens. Newer modifications of IOL design will help enhance the technique. Thus, single haptic fixation technique will be an asset for the anterior segment surgeons to manage complications with confidence and independence. Thank you.